Hey everybody, this is Paul from the Negative to Positive Show. And I didn't have an intro for Gil and Ricardo, so I thought I'd create one. Gil, he is a retired correctional officer. He has 30 plus years with that. And we have Ricardo. Ricardo is a retired firefighter, and he did over 30 years with that. We talked about being elders. We talked about being parents. We talked about being children. And we talked about parenting with our children. So without further ado, here's Gil and here's Ricardo.
On my wife's behalf, was that we talked about it, and I explained to her that we will make our son-in-law and daughter's job a lot easier if we followed their role as parents. You know, their role is to do this, and this. We can't change it when they come to my house.
Yeah.
And we talked about that, and I think I got through to her when I said that, because, you know, it does make sense. It makes sense that if I'm reinforcing what you're doing, your job is easier, because now you're not only hearing it from your mom and dad, you're hearing from your grandparents also.
Yep.
You know, and I think she appreciated me saying that, because
The daughter.
no, my wife. I think she appreciated hearing that, because now it kind of clicked that, you know, I will be making their life easier if I did that.
Wow. I don't even fool with my grandkids like that. Whatever their mother say.
And that's what my mother did with my wife. When is it okay if she has this? Is it okay if they have this candy? Is it okay if they go outside? She always checked with my wife. Always checked with my wife before she made a decision.
What do you wish you'd have did different in the decades after decades after decades? What do you think you wish you'd have did different when it came to being with your wife? Because you did 47?
47 years.
Yes.
I should have reinforced more of that type of conversation with her. She was a great wife. I mean, we were together 47 years. You know, we knew each other really well.
Yeah.
You know, and we had a great relationship. The conflict came with the grandchildren. You know, she felt that I'm supposed to. This is the way a grandparent is supposed to.
Why? Because her grandfather was that way? Her grandparents were that way? Because we move on the experiences that we have. That's why I asked.
I believe so. I mean, I don't have that experience.
Yeah.
I did have a grandmother.
Yes.
And I was the first grandchild.
Yes.
And she did spoil me.
Yes.
So I hear.
Yeah.
Because when I was an infant, she used to dress me in this white tam, and every night she would wash it and put it on a plate to form it.
Old school. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I was the first child.
You got a picture of that?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you got to share a picture.
Yes, I do.
that.
Yes, I do.
So, but you were married 3 times, right?
Yeah.
Did you just move the same way you move with 1, 2, and then 3 before you answer? Or you made adjustments to 1, 2, and 3, and those adjustments should have been made with the last one, and you should have made new adjustments with the new one. Yeah, you see where I'm going with that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think I made the same mistakes, you know, because I was going on what I saw, and what I saw was my father, and to me my father was like it, you know, and I saw him do things that weren't right, you know, being infidelity, you know, and lying.
Yes.
You know, to my mom and stuff, and also then not giving consideration for what that was doing to the child, me, by doing it in front of me, and also acting as if it was correct. You know, I come from a culture that back in those days, I don't know how it is now back in Cuba, but you know that it was almost accepted. to have a mistress, an outside woman. The machismo, which is what I'm learning now, was heavy and thick, and I didn't even know what that was until now.
Yeah.
And I made some of the mistakes in my second marriage that I did in my first marriage, and I know that I didn't do it right, because I was taking a lead from my father, who then I realized it's like, damn, that wasn't right. I knew it wasn't right, but I did it, and I can't say, well, I didn't know no better.
Right.
I knew better. I just didn't have, I don't want to say the gumption, but the thought or idea that it could be done different.
Yeah.
And that it could be different, and I got to the point where I have to realize that, though all those errors and mistakes were very easy to not have been made if I would have just had a better role model.
Yeah.
Or if I would at least had someone that I could do this, say, hey, man, talk about
Yeah.
being a man, being a father, being a husband.
Yeah.
I thought, for the most part, that mostly all husbands had a outside woman, and in the culture and the time that I was growing up, all the songs and everything you hear are leading you that way, and it's like, well, okay, and party all the time, that kind of stuff, and as you realize that, man, we've been sold a bill of goods,
Man, we've been so unchecked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. No one told me, no one checked me, and you have to find out on your own that you're making a grave mistake, and you're taking everybody with you.
And the good thing now that I see in my life, the positive is that I did along the way start to make the changes, but not fully. And now in my marriage, now I realize, how full I have to make the change and change myself, and like you said, reinvent yourself into a new person because of those thoughts and ideas that you had before that got you to this point, and you say, oh, well, at least I survived. Look, I'm okay.
Right.
I'm all right. It can't be that bad. Says,
then you
no.
talk to the kids, and then they're scathed because
Like,
my son said to me, Dad, it's like what happened to you didn't even bother you. And there's where the mental health thing comes in.
Right.
Stashing your face, putting a mask on for others, and you're really just terribly hurt, right?
Sure.
And I just didn't have the fortitude to seek to be better or seek something I didn't know. I took on a wife, but I didn't go study the role of a husband.
Correct.
And I'm just moving along thinking this is what I'm supposed to do, but not knowing the backstory, what happens, what you should be doing when you select a wife, and what is the purpose of having kids, and what is legacy, and what is legacy, and all those things like that. They just was never set out.
Well, but when you said legacy, and in the class, I was thinking totally different because of the fact that in my family, we didn't have legacy. It's like, hey, I'm doing the best I can. You pick up and you do whatever you can for yourself, because hey, and it wasn't like I was thinking, well, yeah, my dad or my family, I'm gonna at least have somewhere else to start from instead of from zero.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like that. And it's like, hey, I got you here. You're alive. You can work, right? Hey, man, I did a great job.
That's
and
it.
it's like, yeah, but I'm out here in the woods and I'm starting, by myself. And it's like, well, you figure it out.
Yeah.
And when we have a chance to say, and my dad used to say, I'm telling you all these things so that you don't make the same mistakes that I made. But you're still doing the same things.
Not only did you model it, you're selling it.
Yeah.
You're selling the idea that this is how it's supposed to go.
Yeah, and it's like I don't know if and mostly all the kids knew, it's like, don't do as I do. Do as I say,
not as I do.
And let me tell you, man, that don't work nowhere.
No, it doesn't, because what I've
now
learned,
we say why.
Yeah, and
now
not
we
only
see
that,
why. Yeah.
yes, the modeling is so locked on
Right.
to how you cook, how you take care of your house, how you deal with money, they watch you. And I told the story how with my mother, when the phone was about to be cut off, we would get that pink letter in the mail, and I would function like that. I wouldn't move until something was about to get cut off or got cut off, because I didn't know. What you do is you get a month ahead on it,
Sure.
and live like you want this to be
Correct.
a smooth transition.
Correct.
Because when you let it go beyond, now you got late fees and you've collected more than if you'd have just did it right.
Yeah.
And then if you don't show the kids this, they're going to go back a couple of steps just to go forward like you did.
Correct.
But it's on your watch.
Correct.
And we've been scared to be, have things on our watch, because apparently my folks didn't give a damn what was on that watch.
Well, I used to think about it. I said, we moved around so much when I was a kid. It was like, not never thought why. I said, oh yeah, we're moving around is because
In the same city?
Yeah, in the same city.
Okay.
And
I know what that means.
By the time I was 18, we had moved like about 15 times, and I was like, it's a new place, and it's the one thing that I first grasped was that I didn't have a whole lot of friends.
Mhm.
Because you're constantly moving,
Right.
so you don't have you might be your best friend here in this neighborhood, and next thing you know, you're way across town,
Mm-hmm.
and that whole thing. And I said, okay, I took that. But then now as an adult, and I think back and I think about it, and I say, well, could it have been that we were just running from the
Responsibility?
rent man?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to a new place. Oh, okay, we're in a new place, Okay, and pretty soon, once you settle in, we're going to a new place. Oh, we're going to a new place, yay! And now, as an adult, you're saying, well, wow, man, if I would have stayed, I would have had friends. I could have people to talk to.
Yes.
I could have had, different things. But why did we do it? They never stopped and said, hey, this, that, or the other. And, if you don't explain to your children, like, hey, look, this is why you want to have 2 months, 3 months, whatever, how many months of rent saved up. Don't go out to the club, or no matter who's coming to town, or whatever. Save that money so that you can go to bed.
That's where
at night.
the policies and the rules come to play, and the boundaries and limitations that you can hand down. I'm letting you know what these are, and I'm going to tell you what happens when you go beyond them.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying you're going to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's very small spaces that you want your kids to learn on their own through their failures, but I would like to see it in the house. I'm going to let you fail in here, because when you get out there, there's a different level of failure,
Sure.
but you know what failure's like.
Mm-hmm.
Never allowing them to fail. And I think I saw something on the internet the other day. People the dad said, let him suffer. And the mother was like, suffering is too much for him. No, if he doesn't know what suffering is, suffering at 25 is a lot worse than suffering at 9. Because you could be fine the next day at 9. You could be homeless the next at 25.
Sure.
Or you could be locked up and incarcerated. So wait a minute. So there's been a big argument about men being incarcerated, and which household was better for men. Was it a dad being in the household, or how homes ran by moms? How long were you working in the system?
34 years.
So go with that. Then can you answer that for me? Because you've seen them.
I would say having a man in the household would make a big difference. Most guys come into prison always say they didn't have a man in their family.
Mm-hmm.
They were raised by their mothers.
Yes.
So a father who was being a real father
Yes.
might have made a difference.
Yeah.
We had a program at the facility that I ran. It was delinquency intervention program,
Mm-hmm.
where we had kids come in, and the inmates would talk to the kids about what brought me to prison.
It's the cousin to Scare Straight. I remember that in the 70s.
Okay.
Was that 70s?
Right, yeah.
This
Yes.
is now I was in a maximum security prison where we had a Scared Straight program.
Yes.
Now, in this Scared Straight program, the kids would get on a bus, usually from a youth detention center or a high school that had a problem. They would bring the kids in. But these kids would come in on the bus, and they would get there, and the inmates would get up there, these big guys would bark in their face, tell them what they're going to do to them when they get here.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean, it was rah,
You took
rah,
his
rah.
shoes, and I was like, I ain't
Oh,
never
man,
going to jail. I remember.
it was terrible.
And,
It was
and your
terrible.
belt.
Yes, these kids were so scared. But there was one time we had these kids come in from a DFY, and these kids, everybody was sitting around, and there was this one kid, pretty big kid. He was sitting in there, laying back, and one of the big inmates came to me and said, "Yo, Sarge, see this kid here? We got to put some pressure on him because you see he's so." He had one of the biggest guys go over to him and say, "I see you sitting here. You think you're a tough guy? Rah rah rah!" So I bark in the kid's face. The kid stood up, almost nose to nose with the inmate, and said, "What the f you gonna do?"
Uh-oh.
Now all the kids in the back have said, "Oh shit!" You know, and I right away I said, "Hey, we might as well put these kids on the bus,
Yeah.
send them back,
Yeah.
because this program is over for today.
Yeah.
It's over." But now I went to another facility, and this facility had this delinquency intervention program. First thing that the inmates would tell the kids, this is not a Scared Straight program. We're not here to be your friend. We're not here to scare you. We're here to let you know what brought us to prison. Now
Now they get the
that was the
stories, not the
difference.
action.
That was the difference. Because now these guys said, you know, when I was a kid, just like you, I hated to take the garbage out. My mother would tell me to take the garbage out. I hated that. Kids would write back, "I'm glad you told me that because now I'm glad to take the garbage out." You know, these kids learned now, instead of in the Scared Straight program, the kids would come in, they get scared. I mean, they were really petrified.
Yeah.
They get back on the bus, "Oh, I wasn't scared. You know, it wasn't nothing."
Yeah.
I'm glad out of that. Oh,
Right. But now, these kids that had the delinquency intervention program, they got back to their facilities. Now they started thinking, because now they realize, wow, these guys are in prison because they did the same thing I'm doing right now. You know, and that caused me. He said, look around this room. Look around this room." The inmates are saying to the kids, "Look around this room. You see these guys? These guys cry at night because they're in a cell. They can't go home."
Right.
That puts a thought in these kids' mind, you know, because now a lot of kids that go to prison think it's a rite of passage. You gotta go to prison in order to be a man.
Yes.
it's gonna be tough. Yeah.
You want to be exactly. So now these inmates are telling them, said, "No, that's not true. We don't run nothing in here. You see these guys here that's doing this program for you. When we leave here, we have to go through a strip search. We have to bend over and spread our behinds. We do this because we hate seeing people that look like us come into prison."
So I got a follow up to that. How many men you think are in prison because of their relationship with women? Now, see, because you're a subject matter expert, and I watch people slander this idea that that's not true or things like that. So that's why I asked you.
The reason that they're in prison because of a woman, I could say, yeah, that's a lot of them. A lot of inmates are. You know, I've had inmates say to me, "Man, if I would just walked away, I'm on the subway, a guy stepped on my brand new sneakers.
Yes.
If I had just walked away, I wouldn't be here today."
Yes.
You know, if my girlfriend wouldn't have got in my face, I wouldn't have slapped the mess out of her.
Yeah.
You know, little things like that. So yeah, it's little decisions that these guys make. And I used to hear the stories all the time. All the time, guys would come to me and say, I wish I had done it differently."
Yes.
You know, I tell my kids now, and in the mentorship program that we had in New York, they say, "Here's consequences. You know, you have a choice. You can go here or you can go here. Now, what do you want to do? Years from now, 10 years, 20 years from now, are you going to say, man, I'm so glad I listened? You know, look at me now. Or are you going to say, damn, I wish I would have listened back in those days?
Yeah.
You know, because look at where I am now. I'm in prison, or or some guys are dead.
From the darkness we rise up, ever look back, shattering barriers, breaking through every wall.
Well, I'm gonna ask you. So, in your profession, do you guys end up with a lot of domestic violence and things like that? Because I know sometimes you guys have to go with the EMTs and the police. What did you think as you're watching that? Was it like, that's not me, or that is us?
You know, watching that or seeing that or going to those scenes, it was like almost a thing of, okay, this is where I hope I never have to be here in this situation, and I know that what I'm seeing, I want to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to avoid it at all costs. But you also see the relationship of how they got there, of the lack of structure, leadership, of somebody in their life telling them that that's not the way it is. Because we would see guys or families where you could tell that the husband or the wife, their background, they saw that in their family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they continue to do.
Mm-hmm.
That the man was his father was abusive to the mother,
Mm-hmm.
and as he grow up now, he's an abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not as bad. Well, at least I don't punch her, or at least I don't slam her head against the wall.
At least I don't.
Yeah. But verbal abuse.
Yes.
And I heard that the study is that you could get over physical abuse much quicker than you can
Absolutely.
verbal or mental abuse.
Yes.
And a lot of times it starts out with just a little incident, and it grows and grows and grows, and at times where it gets to a point where the abuser feels, well, I'll take it to the next step, and that's when it becomes physical.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you see it, and you could tell, and you could look at it and see the trail of
Mm-hmm.
how they got there. But then what made it even worse was to see the little kids
Watching
having
that.
to see that.
I was one of those kids watching my mom get beat for like 7 years and feeling hopeless, and she doesn't want us to do anything about it. And the problem with that is you don't have a conflict resolution. You have the only one they gave you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. This is what we do
That is conflict.
when things.
That's what you feel.
Yeah, this is when it pops off.
That's what you see.
This is what you do.
Yeah.
And the redirection, my ex, she redirected me. Well, she gave me a 2-piece. It had redirected me, but it made me say, this is not how I want our problem solving to be. And I don't know what it takes to have that moment of clarity that says, I don't want to do what they gave me. And before I get to see you, because you show up, then they end up seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get them to before you and definitely not see you?
Sure.
And I think that's where we're at, because they're still doing the toxic battering of each other.
Yeah.
And women are just as active in it now, because I see videos of women dog walking men because something they saw from their childhood. You're not going to do me like what was done to my mom, or things like
Right.
that. But I just know we need to find another way. And I think from my idea is that if dads were to say, that's not true conflict resolution, that's fighting, that's abuse,
Yeah.
and have a conversation about it, not that day. And I think one of our problems is we're talking that day of, not prior to. And if we did more talking prior to, we would have better results.
Sure.
And because if you don't tell the story, then no one knows it.
Right.
And I think that's where the shame comes in, that
Right.
they don't want to talk about the shame that has been created that makes it like a brick wall when it's actually invisible and you can walk through it, because it's supposed to help somebody else. That's why you tell. people keep thanking me for being transparent and things like that, but I just want this to be better. You know, I don't want the thank yous. What I want is I want better families.
Sure.
Because when my grandkids become men, I don't want them to meet you. I want them to be you, but I don't want them to meet you. Because when they meet you, that's a spiraling. You see some people going in there for 2 years and they end up with 20 or they end up dead.
That's right.
And that's scary.
That's right.
And you've seen them come back.
Recidivism.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a friend who talked to his son and told his son, "Listen, don't hang out at the corner with them dudes because you know what them dudes are doing, man."
Yeah.
But he says, "Yeah, but that's my cousins, you know, and that's who my friends are." And I mean, it wasn't even 2 weeks later, man. Sure enough, they came around picking up everybody, and he got in. You going with him too? You hear it right. And so they got him in jail, and he was only supposed to be there for 2 weeks or something like that. He spent about 7 years.
Wow. Altercation after
Because
altercation?
Altercation. And then when he was being good and he had good behavior, and someone found out he was coming out and started something, knew he was a hothead, and boom, he got another.
You know whatever happened to him?
He eventually came out of prison, met a lady that cared for him, you know, that was good to him. And that was the last I heard of him. You know, I know he had some difficulties because he had some social problems because he didn't learn them, you know, because he was in the clink learning other things other than how to be a stand-up guy and how to be a father and how to be a husband and how to be a boyfriend, you know. So he was learning life on the fly.
Yeah.
By that time, his dad passed away a little bit, just about a year or two after he came out. You know.
Wow.
So he didn't have that chance to have that influence up until that time, and I'm hoping that he did learn from his dad those little bit that he was able to. But I know that a big part of it, which is when you're in your teens to when you're in your 20s, that you learn a lot of stuff of how to be and how not to be. The only thing he was learning was, how to be in jail.
Wow. And that moral compass, there is no police for your moral compass until you abuse it, and then you end up incarcerated.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about taking the change agents to the DOC. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. You got to get the right inmates. I mean, I was in charge of putting the inmates. I get their records. I mean, if they had a sex crime, they couldn't be involved in the program. If they had violence, they couldn't be in the program. These are guys that, realize I made a mistake, and I want to do the right thing. You're talking about kids. I grew up in New York City.
Yes.
And when my wife and I having children, now in order for them to go to the park, I couldn't let them just go to the park. I had to take them to the park. So we decided, we got to get out of here. So we moved upstate New York, a little town, and my son was on the basketball team. He was a really good ball player. They had a really good team. And they were hanging out, at this Burger King. And in the Burger King, they go in there and just hang out, and they fool around in there. I know it was a small town. I knew all the cops in town. Guy came to me and said, "Listen, you got to tell your son to stop hanging out with this kid and this kid because they're doing the wrong thing. This kid's uncle is dealing drugs. Now the kid is bringing drugs into the school, and we're watching him. And we know that your son is a known associate. He's hanging out with, he's on the basketball team. All these guys are together." He said, "Tell your son to stop hanging out with these guys, especially at the Burger King because that's where all the transactions are going on."
Yeah.
So I told my son, I said, you can't hang out in the Burger King anymore. I said, they're watching you guys. You got to stay away. 2 weeks later, This kid that was uncle was selling drugs got busted. For some reason, and right there at Burger King, my son came back and said, "How did you know?"
It doesn't matter.
It really didn't.
Right.
It didn't matter, but it put a thing in his head. Wow, I could have been going to jail with them as a known. I was listed on the known associate.
Yeah.
I could have gone to jail with him. So he was lucky. He was lucky.
How do we keep falling for these? Let's just escalate to what men are doing out there and how they keep falling. Well, I'm going to say absence of that. Keep falling for these traps. These traps are out there. They're laid out there, and we see them, but we just don't deter from them.
Yeah. It's sometimes you just get used to what you're used to, and sometimes even though it's not something that leads to something good, but it's something that's familiar to you. And I think that's what I've heard people say. Humans are a creature of habits.
Mm-hmm.
You fall into a habit, and you look back and say, well, I've done it like this, and nothing happened. I've done it like this, nothing happened, so I'm good. And you get to the point where you get comfortable
Mm-hmm.
doing that, hanging with the wrong guy, hanging with a guy that does stuff, but he ain't gonna do it with me. And
Just because he does it, I'm not doing
I'm
it.
not
So
gonna do it just because he does
Right.
it. I'm not.
Well,
That's
guilty
not me.
by association
Thank
is
you.
right there. Yes.
And and I in my job I talk to guys, the police officers, and stuff, and they said, listen, man, we have what they call field evaluation or field something where they stop a car and stuff, and
They call it profiling. Ain't that what they call it?
now they call it
They
profiling.
call
Back
it
then
now.
they call it field.
Yeah.
I forgot what, and it was like, and it's he might not do anything at all, but with the people he's around, and he knows that this kid does this kid does that, but I don't do that, and because they don't have someone there saying, but look, what happens is this, and this, and this. They don't change that habit. So now they're adults, and they've had friends that that went to jail and stuff, and them, and they're good guys and they're cool guys, and you start evaluating that as they were good guys except that they did this,
Yeah, it's
or
like
they were good guys.
My
but-
cousin, he's smart, but he's in jail.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And it's we don't allow ourselves to evaluate stuff to the point of is he a good guy or is he a good person all the way through, or is he not? If he's not a good person all the way through, he has these good habits here, but then these
That's
habits
just
from
one
here to
bad
here, he's a terror.
My life was, when we're talking about moral compass, I was having sex in elementary school. But my whole thought was I wasn't going to smoke cigarettes and be a thug.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that was wrong.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you mix pleasure with empty heads, that was the best way I can put it.
Yeah.
You don't think it's wrong.
Correct.
And remember I said there's a thin line from the moral compass to where it's a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know. We don't talk about that space in there between the thin line and the crime. And then we find out later that was a crime.
Sure.
And there's a cost behind it morally in your life. But that do as I say is not as I do thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing. You're not supposed to do this. But I see you doing it. And no one's watching me.
Mm-hmm.
If we were watched more
Oh, yeah.
at the changes in us, not so much as the events, because the changes will tell you that the event happened, and sometimes you don't see the event. The event's not in the front yard at the house.
Correct.
It's just an event that took place, but you're like, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? And this and that. So that leads me to this topic right here. Molesters, child molesters. I know how they're treated when they get to prison. But why do we have trouble getting them out of our families? You understand what I'm saying? Because they're in our families, but we don't do anything about them. So they never make it to prison, but you'll have problems with them later in the family, and all we do is just turn away from it. Because I got something I want to say about it, but I don't want to.
Well, that's frowned upon in the prison,
Yes.
and it should be.
Mm-hmm.
It should be.
Yeah.
What happens when they come out? I think
If they make it out.
if they make it out, there's a program now. You have to list that you're a child molester.
Yes.
And I think that's another good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're known in the neighborhood. Well, this guy is a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let him hang around with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have websites. Now you can go in there and look and see.
But I'm really talking about the ones that don't make it to the website. They're in our family, and we know it. That's what I'm saying. We know that there are people, those savory people are in our families, and we're just not. What does it take?
Well, I think it's multifaceted because first you have the shame of the victim who doesn't want to say, or is afraid to say.
Okay.
Then you have the shame of the family
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't want to admit that someone in their family is so heinous.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have I don't want to say embarrassment, but don't want other people to know that this person is connected to your family. So in order for your whole family not to get that thrusted upon them, sometimes what happens is that they hide that, and it's like, well, just don't let the girls, don't let them be with the girls,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And but yeah, it's something that we have to talk about as fathers.
Yes.
Not only to the daughters,
Yes.
but to the sons.
Yes.
But to the sons. I recently heard about the percentage of women who are molested in the United States, and it blew my mind. It's more than 75% of the women
Really.
are molested in the United States, man.
And now I can understand with 75% why they hate some men.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Even though they want to be married, they want to be with men, but deep down inside.
And and it's not a violent, rape type thing, but it's,
Grooming.
touching,
Grooming,
yeah,
yes.
the grooming them and the touching them and that kind of stuff. And it's like, and Tiffany Haddish,
Yes.
the actress, I saw a thing where she was saying that she grew up in a foster home,
Mm-hmm.
and that the foster father was really good to her, in fact
Mm-hmm.
that cared for her and all that. And but the thing was that he started touching her,
Mm-hmm.
and even though he was touching her, he was being good to her, and she didn't really evaluate it with that until later when she was older,
Mhm.
and she realized what that had happened.
I know for women, just like I wrote the book 75% Man, and that's about growing up with trauma. And then you become a dad with trauma.
Yeah.
And then you become a husband with trauma. Same things happen to women, probably even more so, that they're coming into this world and hitting high school with trauma. And then they become mothers with trauma. And then they become wives with trauma. And then this is just so messy that we're not seeing it, we're not talking about it, and we're not doing much about it. And I think we're finally at that point now because they can look and see who's in the area and things like that, and who didn't protect them. Because that's where we're at now is you didn't protect me. And so when you're finding out that your child's been touched at age 30, she's telling you at age 37. And so we're looking at the mindset that's being eroded from the time it happened to now till it finally just explodes on the scene. And this is what's going on.
brown culture.
Mhm.
We've always thought about, if you talk to a counselor, or you talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, that you're sick. You know, you're messed up. And we've never allowed ourselves to think that mental health is part of health.
Yeah.
You know, when we think of health, we're thinking about physical,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't think about the mental parts of, you know, what it takes to be healthy. Because you could be, you know, buffed out and everything, man, but your mind ain't right.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, as you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my problems was I was articulate and I was achieving. And they didn't want to think there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wound too tight. Even though I was achieving, I was wound too tight and I was vicious, you know, irritable. And even though I told them I needed help. So I think if you're out there, you have to understand at some point you've got to ask and beg, and not so much as create a problem for health, but stay consistent, because it's about your tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I went untreated for like 7 years, you know, and it only got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until about 2016. And then I just had enough. I couldn't take it anymore. My actions, I didn't open up and say, I can't take this anymore. My action says, you can't take this anymore, Paul. Something's going to happen.
Step is,
My next step is to see him. Not you.
I know
You know what I'm saying, Gil?
Of course
And
I do.
I did not want that, because, and the scary part is to be around people that know you're off
and they don't say nothing.
and they don't say nothing.
Yeah.
They accept you and off because,
That's just the way you are. Oh, that's the way he is.
yeah, and then that was the verbiage,
Yeah.
you know.
We're going to the club. Or don't take him, because you know what's going to happen. Or you go in a club, and you go in a club, and you know that somebody there that you don't like might be there. Hey, let's go get Paul, man. Let's get Paul ride with us.
Yeah,
You know, it's like,
yeah.
The reputation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't know. So that was something else, is to know your mental health status. Check it. Do not isolate. Congregate. That's what I say. So someone can tell you, hey man, you know, when was the last time you had your mental health assessed?
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are you single? And that's another thing. When you're single and you're by yourself, no one's telling you. So then you should do it anyway, because nobody's telling you. You know, you go get a head. I think when you go get your annual physical, they ask you those things also. But if you're not getting an annual physical, no one's asking you that, and you're not thinking mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that thing they say, I hate to use the word, that we don't want to look into mental health, stigma.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're beyond that. I think people are getting help. I don't think enough people are getting help.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we have to be mindful what we want help in.
Yeah.
Because some people go get coaching, and then so like I wrote this dating book, right? But I felt that people would read that book and manipulate people to be in relationships, and they really have mental health issues. They're not, you know what I'm
Haven't
saying?
been
Help me to
addressed.
hide it.
They're covering it.
Yeah, help me to hide my mental health issues, and I'm gonna go and get in this relationship. And then you see them 4 months later, they're out because they only used the book to manipulate to get in a relationship, but you could not maintain the relationship.
Mhm.
So I think that's tough.
You know, and going back to the original question about the sexual abuse in our communities, there's a large number, I believe there's a large number of people who are, I don't want to say undiagnosed, but that have not said what's happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the shame, is also because, you know, their mother was abused.
Yes.
I've come across situations where the victim that you know, and you're saying, oh wow, that was terrible, you know, and it's like when you keep talking to him, says yeah, and then you find out that the mother was abused,
Mm-hmm.
and says wow, and the grandmother was abused.
I know a family like that right now. The grandfather was a molester, and he molested 4 of his daughters. And I don't know what the hell they did about it, but when it got to my level, I blew the whistle.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you just allow that to happen? But we know now in discussion why they allow it to happen. But how do you move forward? And everybody should be a snitch. everybody should tell right then and there. The more the quicker you do, because this idea, I'm going to kill your whole family thing, they must have ran that to death, and then later know that they didn't kill the whole family. They should have told right then and there.
How many times does that woman get told by the daughter,
That's not true.
he's doing this to me, and
Yeah.
the woman,
Yeah.
that can't be happening.
Yeah,
Can't be
that's
happening.
not true.
So
You're lying.
So now that's why. Well, I love him, so I know he wouldn't do that.
Right. So that brings us to where the forgetfulness comes in. I don't remember saying that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I didn't. That didn't
I
happen.
remember that happening.
Yeah, you're lying, and that's
Lying,
why I'm saying
yeah.
you're on the deathbed, telling your story that these things didn't happen. No, I believe, we should address them, and we don't do it, and I think it's a disjustice to the family.
Sure.
To the community in general.
I'm sorry.
'Cause,
Yeah,
you know,
even greater.
yeah,
Yeah, because if he can't get his nieces and nephews, he's going to get his neighbor's kids. What did that molester say one time? He says, I look and see if there's a father involved.
Male
That's
figure.
how he picked his victims. If there was no dad involved in the household, he knew that he can get a victim in that household.
Easier.
And that's why we're needed so much.
Sure.
I think this idea that I ain't gonna say they don't need us, they don't understand the needs of us. If you say you don't need us, your dad was probably not in your life. You probably never saw the love of a dad. You probably never felt the love of the dad. You probably never felt the protection of a dad.
Protection, right?
The protection of a dad, because he's going to not only physically protect you, but he's going to tell you things to protect you. And he's going to put those walls up that says, hey, this is what we don't do. But if you're not there, Dad, if you're not there, you're asking for it. And this is what we're looking at. We're asking for it because we're not there. And I'm just glad I didn't live like my dad. I'm just glad I got to a point where it says, they need me. They need me. And the toughest part is not needing him, so I know they really need me. Not because you want me to buy you stuff. You want me to love you and protect you. And we haven't been doing that. And that's where we're at. So, hey guys, I can talk with you guys all day.
I know.
But if we keep hitting another topic, we hit another topic. We can do this another day. But just write down what you want to chat about, and then we'll get to it and we'll make it happen. Because at the end of the day, if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us.
Turning negatives to positive, just like from the darkness we rise up, ever look back, shattering barriers, breaking through every wall. And with doubts we stand tall, and proudly call the strength within us, the fire that never dies, fueling our dreams, reaching for the skies.